Panama is one of the world's best-known tax havens, and unfortunately not always for good reasons. It is generally associated with corporate ownership reporting rules and the fact that you don't always have to report who are ultimate beneficial owners of Panamanian companies, and the fact that if you do not have operating business in Panama, you do not pay corporate taxes. But did you know that this very fact can also help you reduce your tax bill by establishing a tax residence in Panama? Hi, I'm Johanna from Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs protect their wealth, obtain multiple residence and citizenship, and legally reduce their tax bill by moving their businesses offshore and also establish their personal tax residence in tax-favorable jurisdictions. And in today's video, we're going to discuss how you can benefit from establishing Panamanian tax residence and using the very same system that many international companies are using. Panama is one of the countries that has territorial tax system, which in practice means that only income generated in Panama within the territory of Panama is going to be taxable in Panama. So if you are living there or you have a company there, but all of your income is coming from abroad, having offshore income, and you are not managing effectively your Panamanian company from Panama, that is not going to be taxable in Panama. It might be reportable, but definitely not taxable. Very similar principle applies for personal taxes and personal tax residence. So if you're living in Panama without working there and without actively managing your foreign company, that is not going to be considered a Panamanian sourced income. That's going to be considered offshore income and not going to be taxable in Panama. So if you have rental income coming from abroad, if you have dividends from offshore companies or interest from offshore affairs, that's not going to be taxable in Panama. It is slightly different and slightly more complex when you have your own business, especially if you are single-handedly managing that business. It might trigger permanent establishment rules. It might trigger effective management and control rules, and it might be considered as if you are working for that company from Panama. But obviously that is where proper tax planning comes in place, so that with effectively understanding what permanent establishment rules are, you can avoid. So that brings a significant appeal to Panamanian tax residents. Effectively, there are two ways for you to become a tax resident of Panama. The first way is just by simply living 183 days in Panama. For many people, that is something that works. They love Panama, they enjoy the vibe, and they're willing to commit their time in order to benefit from that tax system. But there is one other option that does benefit for people who might not necessarily be able to commit full time and living in Panama, or at least living at least 6 months per year. They are much more mobile, but they still are able to spend certain time in Panama. And that is demonstrating a significant economic substance. It basically means showing that you have more economical ties, more economical connections with Panama than any other country. And you can establish that in two ways. So ownership or use of the property, it is more on a personal level. So having your primary residence there, showing ties to the country. It can be anything from different sorts of memberships, bank accounts, basically showing that you have closer ties to Panama than any other country in the world. And the other way is ownership of an operational business. And this is very interesting because we previously said, if your business is outside of Panama and you're not going to pay taxes in Panama, now we're talking about operational business there. But this is how you can use it in your favor. So if you do have a foreign company, you can obviously establish a company in Panama, which you are going to be employed. So you are going to work for a Panamanian company, maybe have some activity through that company, couple of contracts to that company, maybe some suppliers or clients in Panama that you generally have will go through that company. And you are going to pay personal taxes on your salary that you are getting from that company. Taxes in Panama are generally relatively moderate, up to 25%, and rate of 25% applies only on the income that is higher than $50,000. So if you receive less than that, you will have a lower tax rate or tax rate of 15%. So if you're taking your annual salary up to $50,000, you can effectively pay on that only 15%. That will basically guarantee you a tax certificate. So being able to demonstrate to other countries that you are a tax resident in Panama, you're already paying taxes on Panama. For that, you might also be paying some small corporate tax on the work in Panama, or if there is any operations in Panama. But in general, what you are preventing with this structure, it might sound like an additional hassle, but you are preventing that your travels all over the place are going to make you tax resident of another country. Again, you might not necessarily need to spend a lot of time in Panama, given that you kind of need this route in order to avoid that. But as long as you're constantly receiving that salary from a Panamanian company, you can be considered a Panamanian tax resident and show them those certificates. Again, show those certificates to some other countries if needed for you to avoid becoming a tax resident somewhere else. That doesn't mean that you can go to UK and spend 8 months there, or some other very tax aggressive countries. You need to be proper and very restrictive in the times that you are spending in other countries, but it allows you higher flexibility when you are traveling. So this is something that generally can be done. Obviously, there are a couple of things that need to be taken into consideration, and really to establish a proper structure to really avoid triggering permanent establishment rules. Probably some transfer pricing might be involved, but this is something how you can benefit from it. Obviously, if you cannot show additional ties to the country, or if you cannot commit yourself to spending enough time in Panama. Establishing a tax residence is from utter importance when it comes to leaving your high tax country and reducing your tax bill. And on this and our main channel, we spoke about so many different tax residence options, but you obviously need to take into consideration your personal preferences, your lifestyle, your desired tax bill when choosing which option would be the best for you. Besides Panama, there's so many other options. And if you're still not sure which option would work best for you, or if you know where you would like to live and commit your time, but you're not sure how will that work with your corporate structure, Nomad Capitalist team would be happy to help.